We're ready to go.
Lovely. Thank you so much for the quick turnaround. Good morning. I'm going to call the Committee of the Whole to order for the City Council of the City of Missoula. It's July 27th, 2022. Can you please do a quick roll call for attendance, please?
Absolutely. Stacy Anderson.
Present.
Mirta Becerra.
Present.
Daniel Carlino.
Present.
John Contos.
Here.
Jordan Hess.
Here.
Gwen Jones.
Present.
Kristen Jordan.
Present.
Mike Nugent.
Present.
Jennifer Savage. I think she's out. Amber Sherrill.
Present.
Sandra Vasica.
Present.
Heidi West. Absent. All right.
Okay, thank you. We have minutes from June 29th, 2022 to approve. Were there any changes to those minutes? Seeing none, those will stand approved. Claire, while I call for public comment, if you are able to promote Jim Hicks, Joyce Dombrowski, Ricky Henderson, Shannon Flanagan, and Susan Hay Patrick, I cannot promote them, but if you're able to do that, I'll throw that your way and we can get started in the meantime with the meeting. And I'll call for public comment on items not on the agenda. If anyone wants to comment, please raise your hand. Not seeing any raised hands. So today we are hearing a resolution requesting Missoula County to refer a crisis services levy to Missoula County voters. And if you can also promote Izzy Milch to be in the, so everyone remaining in the attendees, if you can stick them all in. Okay, great. Thank you. And also Ms. Milch, if you're able to promote her, the last one in the attendee room. Okay, so we are back to this crisis services levy. I'm going to have Mike Nugent introduce it in general and then pass it to our presenters for today. Mr. Nugent.
Thank you, Madam President. As my fellow council members know, the services that the city and the county are able to provide to address many of our community needs as it relates to houselessness and mental health and mobile response are currently being supported through ARPA dollars. And as those funds continue to, or I guess as those funds go away, the decision needs to be made at a local level of what our priorities are moving forward. And to that end, a very large and diverse group of city community members have come together and requested that the county commissioners consider putting on a levy on the ballot in November to provide permanent funding for several of our crucial new services, including the mobile response team. And to that end, we today are being asked to consider supporting that effort. And I'm going to turn it over to Dale Bickle to introduce a few guests we have to speak to that.
Thank you, Dale Bickle, Chief Administrative Officer. This request really came from a coalition of citizens and organizations and who are here today to talk to you about continuing these efforts that Councilman Nugent talked about. We've had a great partnership between the city and county and from our partner organizations like Hope Rescue Mission, United Way, Poverello Center, Partnership, and PHC in order to start these programs with a surge in people in crisis that happened during the pandemic. as Mike said, we are up against running out of ongoing funding to maintain these programs, and they've been critically important. So these the representatives of the coalition are here to talk about that. And so I want to turn it over to them to talk about this in general. And I think Shannon Flanagan, are you kicking this off?
I am. That was the plan anyway. My name is Shannon Flanagan. I own Flanagan Motors Mazda here in Missoula, and I'm a lifelong resident. I have been obviously a community member involved in a lot of different things, mostly arts, for the past 30 years. And actually, this ballot initiative that we're talking about, I think, is important for Missoulians. We've had a couple of years now of experience using federal dollars that were given to us. It turns out to experiment with programs to impact homelessness, addiction, mental health issues, and to kind of rework our justice system a little bit to make sure we're taking care of people appropriately. So those funds are going to disappear in sunset, which means that problem will fall on the shoulders of our community more directly now, at least to support them monetarily. It's my opinion that if we, don't do anything, this problem will not just disappear. It will get worse, and we will be back in the bucket that we were in before. We've had some success stories. We talked about the mobile response team, the temporary safe outdoor space, to some degree, the authorized campsite, and all kinds of programs coming together in coordination to help with these issues. So our friends group would request that the city council would consider putting this up for some public debate and considering putting it on the November ballot so that we can have our voters determine whether they feel like this is a logical thing for us to proceed with. So that's the long and short of it. And we can answer questions. We also have other people here who will speak directly towards this as well.
Great. Dale, did you want to introduce those as we go through, or I can?
I'm happy to. So the members of, we have lots of members of the coalition here. We also have members of city staff and organization staffs that are helping run these programs that are available to talk. Also, the Chief Administrative Officer of the county, Chris Lounsbury, has joined in the attendee list and is also available to answer questions. But with that, I would invite Susan Patrick from United Way or Joyce Dombrowski from St. Pat's Hospital to talk a little bit about the initiative.
I guess I'll start. Thank you all. Susan A. Patrick, CEO of United Way of Missoula County, and thank you all for your service and for this opportunity today. As Shannon mentioned, over the past 2 years, as COVID worsened, homelessness, mental health crises, addiction, and other social ills in our community and in our country, frankly, Missoula's local government took action, wisely investing ARPA money to stand up several programs that over time have proven effective in changing and saving lives. Programs like the Mobile Support Team, which provides a humane, cost-effective response to people experiencing a mental health crisis, like the Temporary Safe Outdoor Space, which shelters unhoused Missoulians, many of who became homeless during the pandemic, and links them to sustainable housing, thus ending homelessness for many of them. The Community Care Team, which provides life-saving medical care and other kinds of support to unhoused people and connects them to services and housing. Other programs help returning citizens start a new and better life, address addiction, and ensure justice for victims of crime. All these programs represent, as Shannon said, not just a wise investment of public dollars, but deep collaborations between nonprofits, government, the faith community, local businesses, and individual and institutional donors. But ARPA money is running out, and sustaining or expanding these programs, whoops, I went off camera. ARPA money is running out, and sustaining and expanding these programs is too big a lift for the private sector alone. We are doing our part, but without public funding, we'll lose the ground we've gained over the last few years, and Missoula will go backwards. And that's not Missoula. We are a forward-thinking place with a history of working together to craft, implement, evaluate smart solutions to some of our most pressing problems. That's one of our defining characteristics as a community. We know that asking the commissioners to place this levy on the ballot and asking the voters to approve it comes at a cost. In my line of work, I see every day how stretched people are, especially our most vulnerable neighbors. But as you know, local government has very few options when it comes to generating funds for programs like those I've described. A levy is the best option we have. We know the cost, we will feel the cost ourselves, but the cost of doing nothing, of going backwards, is too great to bear. It wouldn't be smart, it wouldn't be compassionate, and it wouldn't be Missoula. So I urge you to support this resolution for the good of the community, because we all benefit when we live in a place where people are housed, are physically and mentally healthy, and have opportunity, justice, and hope. So again, thank you for your service and for your thoughtful consideration. And now I think Joyce from St. Pat's will speak.
Thanks, Susan. Again, thank you all for the time. My comments will be brief. Shannon and Susan, as leaders of this effort, have said it very well. Really representing the private sector of healthcare, I wanted you to know that I am deeply grateful for our city and county's proactive approach. The collaboration that we've seen in this community is remarkable in the last 2 years. And we really have an opportunity now to care for the citizens of this county in the best way possible. Going backwards just doesn't seem acceptable as I think through what we encounter with individuals in crisis every day here at St. Pat's. It's not the way we want to live. It's not the way we want people to live. And we'd like to extend and think through how to use and be good stewards of a resource should this levy pass, to make sure that we are in fact on the prevention side of all that we can be, so that we can keep individuals out of crisis. Certainly the support team, you've seen the data is really just a tiny piece of what we can do together if in fact we can have sustainable, predictable funding. So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Happy to answer any questions and really proud to be part of this community.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Shannon. Dale, was there anyone else to speak to this before I go to questions? I just want to make sure I've included everyone that you had on your list to present.
Shannon and Susan, are there other coalition members that have planned to comment proactively versus?
I think you got the three of us, and
Okay.
we're happy to take questions.
Okay, excellent. I see some hands raised, so let's go to questions. Kristen.
Thank you. I guess my question is, I have two questions. One is when or can we see a breakdown of specifically what's being asked for and for what services? Because I'm really curious to see how it's broken down, and specifically even further, how we are planning to implement private security, because I know that's a part of this levy as well. I'd just like to see a total breakdown on what we're asking for, who it's going to, and that would be super helpful. I also, just as a statement, want to say, our mobile crisis team has shown that it's saving us money. The metrics that were put in place were astounding. And I wish that it could be part of a permanent budget, because it's actually a program where the metrics were put in place to show program efficiency and cost savings for taxpayers. And I wish that this was the kind of program that we actually funded in general, rather than taking it to the voters, because it's an effective program both for the clients and both for taxpayers. So yeah, a breakdown of the actual levy would be is my request, please.
Great. Dale, or is there someone else who can address that?
I can speak to that a little bit. I think one of the distinctions we are making here is that this is we want it to be a services-centered or people-centered initiative. So it's contemplated that it would continue and enhance programs in place today, like MST, like Operation Shelter, and deal with some of the jail diversion activities that the county is working on today. What has to happen here, this is a county initiative. I need to remind everyone here. And with the share between the city and the county and all the organizations will be governed by an interlocal agreement that would be developed after the initiative passes. And the funding wouldn't be available for this until the next budget year. So that would be the time where we, with the ballot, what the initiative would do would scope the services that could be provided, and then working towards the FY24 county budget would be where how these services could be allocated.
Great, thank you. Mr. Carlino.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to point out that when it comes to funding schools or mobile support team or things like this, we have to do a mill levy, but when it comes to funding the police, it just seems like extra money comes out of nowhere, and that's the biggest budget by far. And these other things are crucial to keeping us safe in the community. And I guess my question is, are we planning on doing a contract for private security with this? Because this is our chance to not use Rogers International, but rather do a public security company or something more that has transparency and public accountability. And I guess I'm just curious if the plan right now is looking at doing a private or a public security and things like that.
I'm not sure if Dale, can you answer that, or Chris? I'm not sure what the difference is. Anyway, Dale, can you address that?
It hasn't been contemplated as such as converting it, but it sure could be. That is something that once a permanent form of funding is available, all those types of things could be considered and weighed on what we need. So if we find it's better to take, quote, security in-house, that's something that could be considered under this.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Dale. I think it's the threshold issue is if we don't have finances for it, we aren't providing these services in any form or fashion. So that's the discussion we're having today. Mr. Nugent?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I was going to make the motion, and then I can speak to it after public comment.
Okay, thank you. That motion is in order. Let's continue on with questions, all right, because I've got a lot of hands raised. We've got about 10 minutes left or so. So Ms. Cheryl?
Yeah, thanks. I have a question, but I also have a comment. Should I hold my comment?
Let's just do questions for right now.
Okay. I'm curious if anyone has numbers on kind of the increase in houselessness that we have seen nationally over the last few years, and if there's any kind of comparison that you can draw with Missoula. Do we have any of those numbers kind of available? And I can get those separately if that makes sense.
I know that those numbers are available. I mean, anecdotally, I know that's in the millions. Emily Armstrong on the call might have more authoritative sources, but we definitely can get that, census numbers and local population studies. This is not just a Missoula problem.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. I think, Susan, I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate Dale's point that we've had a surge of people in crisis during the pandemic. And at some point, I think it'd be really nice to kind of see some of those national numbers. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of research to find, New York Times articles about this. The Economist has articles about it. I mean, I've been reading them for years, and also reading more and more about what the projections are nationally and how we're hitting highs percentage-wise increases that cities around the country have never seen, and just lots of struggling for municipalities to figure out how to deal with this humanitarian crisis. And so I just think at some point that would be an interesting piece to see as we move forward. We know it's happening, but everyone likes numbers. So thanks.
Okay, I'm going to take that as your comment too, Amber. So you're good. Okay. We are running short of time, guys. Ms. Vasika.
Thank you. I have 3 questions. I'll ask them all in a row here. If the levy gets on the ballot and doesn't pass, where will the funds come from, or will these projects just be eliminated? How much will the levy be? What is the ask? And if the city does not pass this resolution, can the county put it on the ballot anyways?
Dale, is that in your ball court there?
Sure, I can answer those questions. So the first question as to what would happen with these programs. So right now in the city's budget, we're using the remainder of our ARPA allocation to be able to continue these programs through fiscal year 23. So that would include mobile support team, emergency winter shelter, a portion of the temporary safe outdoor space, and ACS. All of those programs are funded in one way or another through this fiscal year. What we would do if this levy doesn't pass, and what the city is going to embark on is this update to a strategic plan, and that's where our prioritization efforts without these. And as you know, as we go through our budget process, we are up against our general fund mill levy cap. So there isn't an opportunity to raise other funds for these programs or other city priorities outside of that. So that's one of the reasons that the city and county are working together to look at this initiative. Another question is, yes, the county can move forward with this without support of the city, though I think this, you can think of this as like public comment on the county's initiative. The county opened their public hearing last Thursday, July 21st. They will close their public hearing next Thursday, August 4th. And so this resolution of support is essentially is just that. It's whether the council wants to support the county placing this on the ballot. And was there another question in there?
Yeah. How much is the levy going to be?
Yeah, good question. So I think the county right now has proposed the levy would be up to 20 mills, which would raise approximately $5.5 million.
Okay, and how much would that be like per household? And then I'll be done with questions.
Yeah, the estimate is that it would cost about $27 annually per $100,000 of assessed value on your home.
Thank you.
Thanks. Heidi.
So quick comment just that this isn't at all how school funding is established. I just wanted to point that out. And then my question is about the actual bond language. I didn't see that attached yet, and I assume maybe it hasn't been finalized. And I was wondering if you knew when that would be finalized. And so it's question part A, and then B, I assume it's not going to be as specific as naming private or public or any sort of security in the actual language. Is that correct?
Yes. So I think the language will be general. It is the county's county commissioner's resolution. They would when they close that hearing, that would be when they would put that language on the ballot. When that is available, I will share it with council, but it'll talk in it has to be specific related to the services we provide, but it won't talk about specific service providers or anything of that nature. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay. Any more short questions? We're kind of running out of time, and I do have some public comment now. So Kristen, you have your hand still raised?
Yeah, I did put it back up. I'm feeling confused, and I think it's because I'm new on council. I just want to know specifically, are we actually being asked to approve something where we don't have the final numbers or the final language? Because I do feel concerned about that, particularly as it does relate to the private security and the ongoing funding for these programs. And so, yeah, my question is, are we being asked to support something where we don't have the numbers or the language?
Dale, do you want to address that? I can also chime in, but you want to go first?
So I think what I would point you to is the resolution that accompanied the referral today, and it is very general. And this is a county initiative, but this is encouraging the county commissioners to put initiative on the ballot that would help in all of these areas. Now, should it pass, the city would be is a close partner in this, and then we would work to provide an interlocal agreement where that's really how the allocation of those funds spent. So this first step is talking about do we want to support the county's efforts in placing this initiative on the ballot to support these services? If it should pass, we would have that during this fiscal year, moving towards FY24, we would work an interlocal agreement and determine how the county wants to set these priorities, how the city plays a role in that, and all of the other partners.
Great. Okay, Daniel.
Thanks. Yeah, with the proposed budget for this year, it looks like the mobile support team is being proposed to go down $320,000 roughly of funding compared to last year's budget. And the mobile support team was saying that if this budget is passed like it is proposed right now, then they would lose their data tracking staff member and also would lose their outreach specialist. And could you tell us how, if the budget gets passed as is with the mobile support team losing those two members, could you tell us how that might affect the mobile support team going on into the next year?
And Brad Davis has his hand raised. Dale, did you want to speak first or have Brad?
No, AC Davis, please.
Brad, are you able to unmute yourself? And we're looking at the bottom part of your.
And I'm here. Yeah, I have.
There you go.
The name labeled as Brad Davis. I'll have the program manager John Petroff speak to that. Thanks, Quinn.
Thanks.
That's so. If you've read the Missoulian article, that was some quotes taken from a Reserve Street group that I was speaking with, and so with that that said $300,000 budget cut, that was actually just like what I would like to build this program into what I think would be effective in the future. It's not really a budget cut; it's more of what I saw would be something that we want to build to. So we are able to operate with what we're doing right now and actually a little expansion coming up through these ARPA funds in the next couple of years, as Dale said. So that is kind of taken out of context of a question asked to me in that group. So I feel like we're able to offer the service right now that's needed in our community.
Great, thank you. Ms. Cheryl?
Yeah, I was just going to, I guess, further clarify, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. I mean, as Dale said, we have in the levy, the scope of services that would be allowed to be funded would be clearly kind of articulated, and then that would come to us every year, depending on how the interlocal goes. And then we would decide on how we are spending that money and what services, just like we do with the budget, what services need to be covered, what new services we're providing. So there wouldn't be any, nor would bond counsel ever allow, I think, us to write any specific company into bond language. So whether that be private security or public, I mean, it is pretty broad scope, articulation of the services that can be covered under that. And then we would be required to operate within that bond language as we allocate funding every year based on the interlocal with the county.
Great. So we're over time, but I think this meeting can go long because we have a long lunch hour. I have another engagement that I'm going to have to leave for, but I will have Jordan Hess complete running the meeting. And just to note for the record, we have a motion on the floor. We have not yet taken public comment. And I'll let Jordan, you can go back to completing questions and comments, but I will just briefly share my thoughts. I think we're talking about funding right now and whether we do or don't have funding. And that's the big question, because we had one of the silver linings, I think, of the pandemic and having those ARPA dollars was we were able to be creative, look at other communities, look at what we needed in our own community, and frankly, start some programs that I think we've had need for a long time, but have never, ever been able to pull that out of our general fund. But we were able to create, the county tipped up the temporary safe outdoor shelter. We've got the emergency winter shelter that's been incredibly effective in saving lives over the winter. We've had the mobile support team, which is just an incredible resource to have to better serve all in Missoula. And these are still works in progress, to be honest, and that's great to be having those discussions about how, as they're works in progress, we make them better. But I don't want to get stuck on that right now. The big picture here is, if we don't have funding, we're going back to zero next, in 12 months, and we will have we're going to have a very different world then than we had 3 years ago before this pandemic, when we frankly had a lot of this need, but we have much, much more need now. So those are my thoughts. I appreciate the conversation today. I wish I could be here to vote, but I have to go to another meeting, and we will have this back in full council then for finalizing the resolution. And Jordan, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you everyone for all the great information today. And I appreciate all of the time and effort that's gone into this. Thanks so much.
Thanks, and happy to take over. Looks like Daniel's next.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm curious if this mill levy would be looking towards making the mobile support team 24/7, or if we're just trying to stick with only partial of the day. And I guess I'm also curious what the data specialist or data analyst and operations specialist that John mentioned, what would they be doing, and what would we be missing out on for next year if we don't get them funding?
John or Brad, do you want to take that?
I can try to answer those questions. So currently we're running 10 hours a day. Our plan within the next 3 months actually, is to be operating 15 hours a day with the mobile support team. We're looking at, there's some Medicaid billing funding that's in the works with the state right now. Right now, we're working with the crisis diversion grant. And so with the possibility of Medicaid funding for crisis response, there's some opportunities to possibly go to a 24-hour service in the future. As of right now, because we don't have some of those positions like the data analyst, we're kind of working off numbers that are based on fire and law enforcement and what we have. And I'm doing a lot of that data work along with the admin that we have with Partnership Health Center and Missoula Fire Department. So really right now, it's like we're trying to build that in within our programs. We're collecting accurate data. So that would be what that data analyst would do. The outreach specialist is somebody that would help with our case facilitation. So of the 1,500 and I think it's 46 clients last time I looked, that we've interacted with, every time we go on a call, that outreach specialist or case facilitator, they then make contact to make sure the continuum of care is happening. So it's just one of those important pieces as we build and our call volume increases. The after behind the scenes stuff after those calls is really important. And so we'd like to build that out at some point. And then Brad has some comments.
Great question, Dan. Thank you, John. And I just want to make sure, just go on the record and for some clarification and just make sure that the budget that we're working towards for this fiscal year is to maintain our current level of service for the mobile support team. As we've identified some additional needs for that program, we will continue to work towards those, but we are sending a correction to the Missoulian that there was budget cuts made, or in fact there were no budget cuts. We've just reduced our ask for this fiscal year to maintain levels of services until we can either secure funding through this mill levy or additional revenue sources through Medicaid billing, et cetera. So I just want to make sure we were clear and go on the record that we're going to continue to maintain the level of service we're currently providing moving forward to this year as we sort through any potential mill levies or revenue sources.
Okay. Thanks. And your audio cut out for a minute there, Brad, but I think we got the gist of that you are submitting a correction that there is no reduction in services, and that was erroneous information. Sandra.
Thanks. Two questions. Is this a permanent ask? Is there an end to this levy? And then also, how come the city is not holding a public hearing regarding this?
Dale?
The ask is for as it stands now, I think the county is contemplating a permanent levy, like many of the county levies, and you remember in your tax bill, the county has a lot of different buckets for different levy purposes, and this would be one of those permanent levies. Two reasons that the city, I mean, this is just a resolution of support. The city isn't acting on a particular actually placing this on the ballot. We are essentially making comments. So this resolution essentially makes the city's public comment on the county's public process. The county is holding the public hearing for this.
Thank you.
Thanks. Mike?
Thanks. I was waiting to make comment, but it seemed like a lot of people were making comments. So I'm going to chime in a little bit, but you can cut me off. The way I see this, and I understand frustrations with the budget and understanding the process and all of that, but I do not see this as anything other than an opportunity to give the community the chance to say, these are our priorities. The mayor likes to say that our budgets and our decisions are priorities as a community. And to me, the ability to assure that the mobile response team remains in existence, because it's currently being funded by ARPA money, and that it can potentially grow in the future, is reason alone to voice support for this. I think that the mobile support team is making a huge difference in our community, and it's only beginning to tap its potential there. And I see the levy as an opportunity to say, this is something that the city and the county believe in and want to stick with long term. I think that it's important when we're having this conversation for maybe citizens to understand that mobile support team isn't just dealing with houseless individuals. I believe it was 67% of the calls or the incidents that they responded to were actually with individuals who had some form of housing. And I think that is important to illustrate that how we address these issues as a community goes so far beyond things like the temporary safe outdoor space or houseless individuals, but what opportunities do people have as they go through each step of the process? And with Trinity opening next year and the 30 transitional housing opportunities with the mobile response team, we need to make sure that we are filling in all the pieces of the puzzle to make this work. And I think that this is an opportunity for the community to say if this is our priority or not. And that's why I think it's important. I think we shouldn't miss the forest for the trees on some of the schematics of it, but those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to go to Sandra and then to public comment. Sandra?
Should I hold my comments till after public comment?
It's up to you. You can go ahead if you want,
Okay.
or we can go.
I'll just go now. So a lot of folks are saying that this is a way to show that this is a priority. This seems very, very important. It should be a priority of the cities. But when you have a household budget and you have a priority, you have to do some shifting around. You can't just go and ask for more money. I mean, I guess you can ask for a raise, but you can't just go and make money poof out of nowhere. So you have to shift your priorities. You have to say what can go on the back burner for now. What is not as important as this? And I've seen the city do a lot of creative funding, a lot of creative shifting around with their funding. And so I think that asking the taxpayers to pay the average house is almost $600,000, or I guess the median house is almost $600,000. So that's over what? That's $130 something. Additional to their taxes, and the city already said that we are going to increase taxes. I think the county already said they're going to increase taxes. So I think that this is just an additional burden to the city, and I think, or to the taxpayers, and I think that we should do some creative funding, some creative shifting to make this allowable in our budget. So I'm not going to support this.
Okay, thanks. Heidi, I'm going to go to public comment and then come back to council comment. Anyone from the public care to make comment? Just go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. So Heidi, back to you.
So I'm going to support this motion. I think anytime that we have the opportunity to put something in front of the voters and vote on something, I think it is our responsibility to allow that decision space. I think this is an example of how our system works and how democracy works. And I think yeah, I don't think it is proper for us to stand between citizens engaging directly with their government and their right to vote. So I hope this moves forward, and I'll be very interested to see in how our community engages with these big questions.
Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah, I do wish we could have a more specific list to show the public and to be able to vote on today, but I do support this in general. I think it'll be really helpful for the safety of the community. And I do agree that we should just, rather than increasing property taxes to make this happen, I would rather see this come from the police department and sheriff department's budgets. Our community has had big support for that over the past few years. But overall, I think as long as we can get this funded, it'll be positive. A positive thing for the community. But I do think that if we're going to keep increasing the police and sheriff department's budgets by such extreme amounts, that should be placed on the ballot for people to decide too.
Thank you. Stacy?
Thanks so much. I'm absolutely happy to support this. And I think that, we at the municipal level keep being asked to do more and more as the state is making cuts. And so we are doing really creative programming like standing up the mobile support unit, temporary outdoor shelter, winter shelter, creating a affordable housing trust fund. I mean, all of these things are not things that municipalities were doing 20 years ago. And as Gwen and myself and others have talked about what feels like ad nauseum about the tax burden shift from, as the state is changing how they tax and how our economies have changed. And, we're no longer a timber industry state as we were 30, 40 years ago. It requires, we can either ignore the problem or figure out ways to fund it. And I think we've really stepped up, but there is a limit to how much money we have in our general fund. And so that's why we need to go to the community and ask for them to, approve things like this. I mean, saying for it to come out of the police and the sheriff's office budget, I mean, if every $150 or so $1,000 you cut out of the police budget is basically cutting an FTE. So, I mean, this is a pretty significant amount of money, and just to willy-nilly say, oh, it just can come out of the police budget. I mean, we have a basic duty to provide public safety to our community. And that is the basic charge of what a municipal government is supposed to do. And we do a heck of a lot more than that because we are a community that is creative and progressive and and it is doing the right thing for our citizens and realize that we need to do more. And there are, challenges that municipal governments weren't necessarily created to address, but because people are dropping the ball at other levels of government, we are the bottom rung. We are the most basic level of service. And so we are picking it up. We are doing what we can, but there is just not money in general fund to just absorb something like this. It would be so much easier if it would be, but it's not. And we, need to address this need. And so that's why asking the voters to approve this, is kind of the best way to go in the certain circumstances we find ourselves in at this moment.
Susan, did you want to add to that?
No, but I appreciate the sentiment. I just want to point out that as we clarify our talking points and really hone our message and get the data that will hopefully be persuasive to the voters, I just want to remind folks that we're talking about assessed value of homes, not what Zillow says your home is worth. Just constantly, I understand, as I said, it's a lift. We all will feel it, but just wanting to make sure that people realize it's assessed value of homes.
Thanks. Amber?
Yeah, thanks. To me, I think it comes down to two things, mainly what happens if we do nothing. If we don't take the initiative to be proactive, the money will run out and the problem will get worse, period. So, I don't think of this as a partisan issue, because regardless of your reason for not wanting more unhoused people in your community, whether it's purely humanitarian, environmental due to trash and sanitation, can't say that word, safety, guilt, an economic issue is, I think Kristen pointed out earlier, property values, whatever it is, no one wants it, no one. And so that's the first piece for me. But also this vote is to show support to have the county commissioners put this on the ballot, and it would let the voters decide. So it's really, and it really is kind of that simple. And I love it when we have the opportunity to allow voters to weigh in on important issues. I agree with what Ms. Anderson said, that it's not fair to just say you take it out of the police budget. And I think we'll talk about that more. I believe Gwen had mentioned this is going to come, the police asks are going to come back to discuss more fully, but keep in mind that we have unionized contracts with the police department as well. So it's not that easy for a lot of reasons, but I love the idea of, I appreciate the Friends group. I appreciate that they're getting the message out and will help educate the voters on what this would cover, and also kind of, what happens if we do nothing. Like, to me, that the idea of doing nothing is a very painful prospect. So I'm going to vote to give the voters the opportunity to decide.
Thank you. Sandra?
Thanks. And I wanted to thank Susan for making that clarification. I didn't realize that I did make that was misinformation. I apologize for that. So thanks for clarifying that. And then I do agree with what Heidi said and what a lot of my colleagues said. This is an opportunity to put it towards the voters. I believe we should do that at a completely last resort. And I don't believe that this is a completely last resort. So that is why I'm still not going to be supporting this.
Thank you. Kristen.
Thank you. I'll just start off by saying, of course, I'm going to support this. For those of you that know me, I was a key player in getting the mobile crisis team up and running. I am frustrated as heck by the false choice that's being presented to citizens by my colleagues. This budget, these programs have proven to be cost effective. They have proven to help our most vulnerable population. And we're putting it out to voters, and we do that with no other budgets. We have other programs that have no program metrics that get approved unanimously and without the blink of an eye. And we don't know how well they're running. This program, as I am going to reiterate, has shown that it is saving money. It has shown that it is giving people the care that they need. And this false choice that our only resort is to put it on a mill levy is inaccurate, and it's not what we should be telling voters. We could take any budget we want to the voters. We just choose not to. I fully support this program. I will fully support this levy. And I'm frustrated as heck that it has to go to a levy to get funded, because it's saving lives and it's saving tax dollars, and we're not doing it with other less effective budgets.
Thanks. I don't see anyone else queued up to comment, so I'll just comment briefly, then we'll go to a vote. I guess I want to say that I've been these programs that were funded by one-time funds. I've been moved by the success of them. They have as a lot of people have said, they have saved lives, and they have been impactful, and they have been important to our community. The late Senator Paul Wellstone always said, we all do better when we all do better. And this is an example of us making sure that we can all do a little better in our community. I think that's important. I think that I think that that's why there's such a diverse coalition. That's why we have business owners and nonprofit leaders and folks from around the community coming to us and asking, coming to the county commissioners and asking for the support. I have been involved in some other levies in the past, or other bond measures primarily, I guess, and I will say from my perspective, it's fairly common to have bond language emerge, later in the process. There's a lot of moving parts to pull together here, and so I'm confident that language will come together and will reflect the priorities. I also think we have a great working relationship with Missoula County, and I trust that we'll negotiate an interlocal agreement that makes everyone that supports the programs that it needs to, and also that will involve public input and comment, and that it will involve obviously the city council and the county commissioners, and I know and I trust that process will happen in good faith. So I want to thank Shannon Flanagan, and I want to thank Susan Hey Patrick, for leading this effort and bringing this to us, and I want to thank you for your vision to keep these programs solvent. Kristen.
Yeah, I apologize. We just got an email into the group, city council email from a person who'd like a public comment who couldn't get in. May I read it, or should I just send it? Is there an appropriate way to address this? Because he couldn't comment due to technical issues.
Yeah, and I received it too, and I think our emails are public record, and so I think that's good enough. We'll get it attached to the agenda, and we'll make sure that that there's that we can reach out to him to make sure that we can get any tech issues addressed. And so I think with that we can go to a roll call vote.
Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, Stacy Anderson.
Yes.
Mirta Becerra,
Yes.
Daniel Carlino,
Yes.
John Contos,
Yes.
Jordan Hess,
Yes.
and Gwen is still out. Kristen Jordan,
Yes.
Mike Nugent,
Yes.
Jennifer Savage still out. Yes.
Yes.
Amber Sherrill,
Yes.
Sandra Vasika,
No.
and I think Heidi West joined. Yes. And what's your vote, Heidi?
Yes.
That is 9 in favor and 1 opposed.
Thanks. That motion passes, and we will put that on our committee reports, and that's the end of our business, and so we'll be adjourned. Thanks, everyone.